Hi, welcome. Let me make sure I get my stuff ready and tweet about it. Uh, do. Hello and welcome to, what did I call this? Creating a new language model benchmark is what we're going to be doing today. And as you can see, I have an empty text file in front of me and I will pull up the information. And we're live on YouTube. Fantastic. Let me make sure I can see the chat. There we go. And also double check that I can see the Twitch chat. And that is also good. Be good if I could look at both of them at once, huh? Hi, welcome. So we are going to be working on a project which is, if I finish in time, going to be part of a collaborative task as part of, ICLR maybe? Blah, 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 scaling performance models, pull requests, this table, March. This has been updated, I believe. Yeah, so this has been updated to June 1st, which is like next Tuesday. So good to know. That's coming up fast. And basically what this project is that we're going to be, depending on how quickly I get things done, making a contribution to is a glue style, if you're sort of familiar with it, benchmark, which is a combination of different tasks that are intended to probe large language models. So these are things like BERT, GPT-2, XLNet, T5, all that stuff. And not XLNet, that's not what... that was just like a random word that I said for no reason. And we are going to ideally be making a submission and creating a task for a language model to solve. So that is the plan. Ooh, one sec, looking at Twitch. Okay, Twitch is working. Fabulous, fabulous, fabulous. Hello, hello, hello. And the models which will be evaluated on this, among others, I want to be on this side. I'm changed my mind. Scooch. So the Google teams and the OpenAI teams are going to be doing it. OpenAI, adjust that. You can see my plants. OpenAI is the team behind GPT-3. They're a think tank that has been funded to a astonishing degree by a number of private benefactors, and then Google, presumably you have heard of, and Google is behind like T5, BERT, those sort of models. So they're going to be evaluating those models on this data. And they are also looking for performance results. I don't have a large language model, and also I kind of think it's not the most exciting research area, so I probably wouldn't build one to begin with. So the plan is to make a task. Have I looked into this? A little bit. I do have plans for what the tasks are going to be, so I'm going to put my notes in here so you can know what I'm planning on. So, two things that tend to be problems for large language models. So these are just sort of based on my own looking at people talking about things and discussions that I've seen. And one thing is repetition. So this is something that is kind of a weird pattern that a lot of language models will fall into when you're generating text, where they will start to generate very repetitive text. So my question is, can I prime a model to generate uninformative or repetitive text? And the way that I would do that would be by providing repetitive text. So the example would be, I have 2 apples. Jenny has 3 apples. Jenny has 3 apples. Should I have done this as something other than a text file? Probably. That's okay. Jenny has 3 apples. So then the correct completion of that would be intended is 2 apples, because we want the same information that was provided earlier to be generated again. But likely and incorrect, something like has 3 apples. I am Jenny. Something like that. Something where the pattern of repetition in the prompt is causing the text output to be potentially repetitive as well. Other things that would be likely: I have 2 apples. That was another thing. I have 2 apples, I have 2 apples. So that's sort of like repetitive thing, which I would not want, right? I would just want 2 words, 3 words, because it should be like this. It should regenerate, I have 3 apples, and then stop. So yeah, that is the first task that I'm thinking about. So a way to handle this, amount of repetition without getting distracted. And the other thing would be, can I indent all this just to make it a little bit easier? Can I convince my model? Am I mixing tabs and spaces? Yes. I won't do that. There you go. I'm sure y'all watching were upset about that. So the other thing is, can I distract my model? Distraction with irrelevant information. So the repetition task, I know, is something that happens a lot in generation, but I am less sure about how common this particular thing is, where you have information and then there is interceding information that is not relevant but is used. So an example of that, I probably don't actually need to have these be 2 full indents. It can probably just be 1. It doesn't matter. I could have done this in any Word software document generation place, but I chose to do it in a raw text file in Visual Studio. I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. I am doing good. I'm just tired. So the other thing that I think could really shift model generation, and the idea is here that a human in this situation would be able to ignore the interceding information that is irrelevant and to use just the relevant information to complete the task. But that the language model is not ignoring the irrelevant information and is being primed by it. So an example here would be like, I am a dressmaker, and then maybe some text that is out of copyright, so like 7 years ago, etc., etc. It's a famous speech in American politics. So some of that, and then the thing is, I make so the intended is dresses or clothes. That would also be okay. And the likely and incorrect would be something like, sorry, I'm just gonna try and do this a little bit more parallelly. So the likely and incorrect thing would be other output from historical speeches, irrelevant information, right? And, you know, we as humans, we encounter this sort of text. So like if someone is sending you a message and you're in a message chain with them and then they accidentally send a message to you that they intended to send to somebody else, you know, that happens. You can usually look at it and be like, oh, I should just ignore that. That's not relevant, right? Or if you're talking to somebody and they like yell over their shoulder at like their dog, hey, leave that alone. You know that they're not talking to you. And you can ignore that and continue to pick up on the thread. And like from an architecture standpoint, theoretically, I think there's no reason that transformer models, well, transformers in particular, can't do this because they don't have a strong, you know, recency bias in the way that something like an RNN does. But based just sort of on like empirical results that I've seen and heard discussed, I would be surprised if they could handle this in a robust way. So that's one thing. And I feel like there was another one. Yeah. So this one is sort of a problem in general, and I don't have a good way to quantify this in a task, right? Because for this one, it is clear that like I'm a dressmaker, I make dresses, right? I'm a cheesemonger, I sell cheese. Those sort of things have a very like formulaic pattern, and there's one clear correct answer. For something like this, where you have a piece of information that you're repeating, there's one clear correct answer that you want your system to give. Like you want it to remember and then maintain and then pick back up on the information, which is, again, not something that language models are supposed to do. Like it would not be a fault of the system if the models couldn't do this, but I think it would be a really good piece of information for people to have when they're trying to decide when to use a large language model or not. So there's that. And then the final one is the how many giraffes problems, which I'm going to call hallucination. That looks fine. I'm pretty sure that that's not how you spell it, but I don't know how you would spell it. So example, it's a beautiful day in New York City. How many giraffes are there? Right, where the intended answer is there's no giraffes, because why would there be giraffes in New York City, right? And then the intended output there, which again, this would be harder to text. Intended would be confusion, there are no giraffes, that sort of thing. And the likely, and this one I actually have played around with GPT Dungeon, which is based on GPT-3. GPT Dungeon might be based on GPT-2. I don't know off the top of my head, but I have played around with this quite a bit, and it's a big problem, the hallucination problem, right? So the likely answer is there are 4 giraffes, right? Right. And actually I'm going to rephrase this because I think I think there's a zoo in New York City, so I think there might be giraffes in New York City. I am in an elevator alone, right? How many giraffes are there? So there should be no giraffes. It's clear from context. But I think most language models would generate something that is an answer to this question about how many giraffes there are, that is an answer to the question about how many giraffes there are, right? So this is a presupposition problem. If you've heard like examples like there is a common example that references domestic violence, so I'm going to try and rephrase it. So the question, if I ask you the question, you know, when did you eat all the ice cream I was saving, right? You cannot answer that without first addressing the fact that I'm saying that to answer that question, it presupposes that you did eat the ice cream that I have been saving. And if your problem is with the underlying, like, premise that you did eat the ice cream because maybe you're innocent and, you know, it was your roommate that ate all the ice cream that I'd been saving, then the way that you answer that question has to be not answering the question. The way that you answer the question has to be like, hey, there's a problem with your premise, right? So for this example, I'm in an elevator alone. There are no giraffes. That is clear from context. So if I ask you how many giraffes there are, your answer should be something about like, there's a problem with your presupposition that there are any giraffes, and not, you know, give me a number of giraffes, which is a reasonable thing for a language model to do, to give me a number of giraffes, but it is incorrect, right? If that makes sense. So these are all tasks that I would expect a language model to fail, because these aren't things that language models are supposed to do, right? They're not grounded models. They're not like building, they're not storing information about how many things there are, right? That's what we have databases for. There's very good technology to do that. Language models aren't it. So can we test this? And with that in mind, those are probably the first two, because I think this hallucination task is a little bit difficult to formulate as a solvable question with a clear answer, because a clear answer to the question is wrong, right? If I answer the question, that's the problem. So let's find out how to create a task. Boop. Simplified tasks are defined by a JSON file. That's what I'm planning on doing. And programmatic tasks that can interact with the language models. I'm not planning on doing that. In this section, we will walk through how to create both types of tasks. More details are available. Yep. Each task is contained in a folder with a README or read PDF file describing the task and a task.json or task.py file defining the task. In this section, we walk through creating a JSON-based task for which the task data is specified in a task.json file. So first fork it, and then clone it. I think I'm going to start by just writing the JSON and then do all the get off screen, because I don't think that's very interesting to watch. But we can do that. So we recommend starting with one of the JSON template tasks. The simple arithmetic JSON is a good choice. So this is actually one of the things that the GPT-3 paper suggests that their model is actually better at than you would anticipate. And that's why I think this particular type of task that's looking at sort of deeper modeling of numeric reasoning is going to be a little bit clearer. Yeah. README and then a task.json. We're going to edit both of them. Fabulous. Bunch of fields we need to add. Cool, 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 cool. So I'm going to go to here. All right, so we've got a bunch of examples. And I mean, the thing that we're doing is basically like the arithmetic task. I looked at this a little bit earlier. So let's do that. Boop, boop, boop. All right, so we can do all that. So here we have input and target. And I think what it makes sense for me to do is actually just to write out some inputs and targets and then deal with the structuring of all of this later on, off screen, in no small part because I type and do stuff much more slowly with people watching who I am describing what I'm doing to than I do when I'm just on my own. It may surprise you to learn this. I am much faster if I'm just writing on my own. And I think the interesting part here is really coming up with the examples and sort of figuring out how the example should be structured. So we're going to work on the repetition. And we're going to come up with some examples for the relevant information. And I don't think they actually have a target number of examples that they're looking for. I think for this particular task, at least 50 would give you like fairly good signal. I don't think they have that many in this. Let's see, they got 28. I'm probably going to have a couple more than that because I think it's a little bit more difficult of a question. And if I were feeling very fancy, I would do it also in other languages, but I'm just going to do it in English, sorry. Know that that is not because other languages are less worthy, but because it would be very slow for me to do this in like French, which is probably my best second spoken language. My best second language is American Sign Language, which I don't have much call to do NLP on because pretty much everyone who knows American Sign Language also knows English and can produce text fluently, so NLP for that population is not super vital. Yeah. Right. Okay, and do they have anything for like starting with one of the tasks, blah blah blah? I'm just looking for if they have like a specific amount of code that they are looking for. And then pull across. Okay, yeah, I'm just going to do all that offline because it presupposes that I finish writing the examples. All right, let's make some examples. So I want to So I'm going to do this. Boop. And we'll get started with that. So the intended output should be, I'm actually going to space here, have 2 apples. So here's an example. And I'm going to have to go back and clean up the line wrapping, but that's okay. I don't care that much. So I want this to be a number of, I'm going to capitalize these to make sure they're names. So I want this to be things I'm thinking about here. I want this to be a number of types of objects. So just types of considerations when producing examples. Variety of types of objects. I don't want to get stuck in like a specific part of the semantic space, basically. Of objects, variety of names, variety of qualities. Right, so I number, color, orientation, I think that's a good one. So like whether something's upside down. What are some other common qualities that objects have? Also, I know many of these things are misspelled. Don't worry, I'll do some spell checking at some point. At least one of those ways of spelling variety is wrong, and just looking at it, I could not tell you which one it is. Hashtag dyslexia. Age, I think that's a good one. Okay, so I think that'll be a fair number. And let me do some examples. The bucket is full. The cup is empty. And then I'm going to repeat this. Oh, change number of repetitions. The cup is empty. The cup is empty. The bucket. Well, in their example, how do they handle spaces? Spaces were not handled. Okay, so I should delete both leading and trailing spaces. So it should be is full. Basically we're looking for, you know, remember and stuff. Yeah, other examples. What would be some good objects? Swattish list. That would be a good thing to use. So the Swattish list is a list of words that are particularly stable over time within specific languages. So I'm going to use it because these are words that you should have a lot of examples with. They're pretty common. And also verbs. There we go. Okay, so here I'm looking for just sort of the nouns. So let's go with let's see. Oh, I should also try. So the flower is alive. The tree is dead. The flower is alive. The flower is alive. The tree is. And it should be dead is the correct completion to that statement. All right, what else we got? So I'm gonna use this as an example. Let's see. Ooh, dirty's a good one. Yeah. Okay, so let's use dirty with water. I think that'll be a good one. So the water is dirty. The water is dirty. The milk is safe. The water. So I guess in this instance, safe would be the opposite of dirty, and it doesn't have to be oppositional. It just has to be a different quality. Actually, that makes sense. So let's actually use a different quality here. So warm. No, actually, let's use a quality that is not commonly associated with milk, like new. That is a way that you can describe dairy products. It's a little bit archaic, I would say. But people definitely say it. The water is dirty. The milk is hello near this says clean. Yeah. And then the milk should be new. Yeah, I do want to stay away from having things that are all oppositional to each other. Also, I'm using a lot of things with the copula, which is the linking form of the verb to be. And I want to make sure I use other verbs as well. So let's add some additional verbs in here. I sure didn't. All right. Cool. I'm going to have to clean this text up a lot, but that's fine. I don't care that much. It is putting together the examples in the first place that takes the most of the work. Fresh milk. Yeah. Yeah, interesting. Because I definitely say fresh milk, right? Like fresh or sour, but like new milk is like you haven't done anything with it yet. Like for me, new milk, if you said this is new milk, I'd be like, and we were in an agricultural context, I would be like, oh, that hasn't been pasteurized, right? Like probably it's cream line. And like new cheese is cheese that has like just been made. And is usually not cured and not pressed. Might not even be salted, depending on who you're talking to. All right, let's see some other examples. This one is 35 words. There's like a bigger example, right? Sign languages. Or was that the big example? 207. Okay, yeah, this is the big example. Let's do egg and head. I think those are fairly separate. Raw milk, French treated. Yeah. Yeah. So let's do... There are 3 eggs. There are 2 heads. There are 2 heads. There are 2 heads. There are 2 heads. I know this is more repetitions, but this is part of the what would make it difficult. There are... Okay, so here we are trying to get out eggs. So rather than the quality, we're trying to get out the object. The 3 is dead is an odd sentence. Yes. 2 eggheads. Oh, yeah, I was more thinking about like a Celtic archaeological site where there's a bunch of collected heads and also I guess egg remains. I don't think eggs tend to preserve very well though. All right. So what else would make sense here? Remember when I said I wanted 50 examples? We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're 10% of the way there. I don't think we need a full 50. I think you could get good signal with less than that. But I think this is something that a person could do. Do you mean tree on line 21, or is that a huge... I do, in fact, mean tree. Thank you very much for spotting my typo that I probably would not have seen. All right. Let's look at some other stuff. I also want to get some things that are like semantically unlikely. So like the mountain is green, not usually a color mountains are, and the fire is dead. I think that's a good example too. Have I already used dead? I've already used dead. The fire is here. Problem with this is it's very poetical, so I could see the argument for this actually being a perfectly normal thing to say. Could I generate these? Yeah, probably. But I think it can be really helpful to do this sort of stuff by hand because you get a better example. Am I specifically selecting words only from this list? Oh yeah, I can definitely link the examples. I am not only selecting words from this list, but this is a I feel like these are very fair words to select because the likelihood that they're not in the training data is 0. All of these words are going to be in the training data. And yeah, they're just very common words cross-culturally as well. So if you wanted to translate this into another language, unless the language is closely related, you're really unlikely to have cognates. So it would be very different between languages as well. So if somebody wanted to do this for like, I don't know, Kapampangan or something that you had, you know, a speaker to help you with, you could definitely do that. I shouldn't imply that none of you know Aboriginal languages. If you speak an Aboriginal language, you should do the task too. All right. Let's do like swim and I don't know, count. I think those are 2 good ones. So how about the child counts, the child, and then it should say counts. And it could very well be that language models can do this very, very well. And that this will be a trivial task. But, you know, I think that's something that's interesting to know, you know? And then what was the other one I wanted to do? I wanted to do swim. Let's do dogs are swimming. I've been learning a lot this week about the sort of role of dogs in pre-conquest cultures in North and Mesoamerica, and it's really interesting. Because for a very long time, they were the only domesticated animals in the Americas. The fish's bone. Oh yeah, that's a good one. And like some of these are, I would say, a little bit weird, but also I think a human could definitely do this task, right? Like I could ask any of you to, probably there's some bots, but I could ask any of you, fellow humans, to do this task, and I think you could, like, trivially, with one example. This is a super, super doable task for humans. Let's see. Why am I doing that by hand? I do not need to. Rachel, will this JSON actually parse? Shh. That's for future Rachel to figure out. Fish is bone. Actually, we should also do an example where this is right here. So I think in this case, the fish would be like a the fish would be like a token or an object of some kind, and it is made out of bone rather than it being a living fish. And then I want to give some other examples that are that are parallel but not super different. The stick is salt, I guess. Or the salt is dirt. I think that makes sense. Or the dirt is salt. There we go. The dirt is salt. This is a very I don't know if Hemingway wrote poetry, but if he did, it probably sounded a little bit like this. I almost said tasted a little bit like this, and that's not how that works. Lava Lamp says, should these make sense, or is the fire is wet acceptable? Yeah, that's a good question. So, do I want these to have semantic coherence? I don't think it's important. But it does seem a little bit unfair to the model because it's not going to have seen, discussion about fire being wet before, probably. Yeah, but there's the Black Swan problem where people talk about things that are impossible or unknown more than they talk about things that are known. So probably the fire is wet occurs more than the fire is not wet in any given text corpus of sufficient size. So, Lava Lamp says, if sense isn't important, the world of poetry is wide open. Yeah, it for sure is. Yeah, and I think this is definitely a little bit of a poetic task, but also I think any human could do this who spoke the appropriate language, of course. The lava is wet equals the fire is wet. I guess the question is like, what quality are you implying that something has when it is wet? Is it just that it is molten? In which case, yeah. Halunir that says the flower is yellow. Yeah, we could definitely do that. Actually, as long as we're being poetic, yellow is the flower. Also, I am following into a trap where I am doing sort of the same number of things. I should do a couple where it's just the same thing over and over again, huh? To show that the system can do it when there is only repetition, which I don't know is the case. Okay, so I think we can do a couple where it's just pure repetition. No, it's a flower. There are 2 stars. The other thing that I'm not worried about is I'm not worrying about these strings having been seen before. That's not a problem for me. What I want to know is whether or not the system is able to correctly, Also, the outputs are all one word except for this one, so I'm going to change that. Didn't do a very good job changing it. Let me actually change it. Rachel, you do a lot of things out of order with text data. Yep, sure do. Lava Lamb says, the mountain is narrow, the sun is near, the right is bad. Gotta get your political biases in the AI early. I mean, it's already in there. Right, it's trained on web text. Sing to the moon. Yeah, I'm trying to avoid anything transitive. I guess this is transitive. Actually, this first example I don't like anymore. So I'm going to get rid of it. There's too many other things going on. So I think I'm going to stick to got some of that. What is this called? Epistemic there? Ooh, what's that there called? Epistemological? I forget what that there is called. There's a specific evidential? Ooh. It starts with an E, I'm like 90% sure. So there's a name for this specific type of there. But other than that, I'm keeping pretty much the same, I'm keeping pretty much the same pattern in terms of syntax so that we're controlling for that. So I think I'm gonna keep that, and I think I'm also gonna get rid of these examples. Again, just so we're using, just so that we know that the difference is not because of the syntax, the difference is because of whether or not the system is picking up on the pattern that we're providing. Also, this one is a little bit on thin ice. Change the number of repetitions. Use words that can be translated into Swadesh list. How do you spell Swadesh? Maybe like that. Let me double check. Word2Vec says, I noticed you didn't tag this stream with programming, which probably reduces its discoverability. I am not a bot. Has programming been added as a tag? I know they just added a bunch of them, so let me, sure enough, let me add that. Thank you so much, Word2Vec. Also, I'm assuming you are not actually the Word2Vec algorithm, but that's one that I've used quite a bit. For easy cross-linguistic comparison. And then for this one, same syntactic form, sub, copula. Oh, I actually have two syntactic forms here. So I have subject, copula, quality, and I also have this there. I forget what this there is. Hello, this says I'm not a cat. I don't have any evidence of that. I think a very lucky cat could probably type. What's the there that takes the subject with the copula called? It's got a name, and swear to God, I'm gonna try to remember it, otherwise it's gonna drive me round the bend. See if I can find this. Feel like it should specify the language of its English content too. I feel like this is a little Anglo-centric. Copula verb, blah 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 blah. Many languages have one copula. Forms. It's essential to be, to exist. Blah 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 blah. Zero copula. We don't really have that in English. Example specific language. There's many other words. There is expletive pronoun. Gosh, wowie. That took me a while to remember. Hi, Marco. It's been a while. Lava Lamp says, a lot of people don't tag by programming, so I don't filter by it anymore. Yeah, I didn't know that it was a tag. I have added it. It's actually probably more relevant than interviews. The rain made fog. So that's going to take away from our pattern. with the explicit. Rachel, are you combining semantic roles and parts of speech? Hush. Yes, I know. I am definitely same exact form for parallelism. So noun, to be, that's a copula, and then an adjective. And then the other one that we have is there. So that's the only expletive pronoun I'm using. And this is just to really control for other variables that might also be confusing the model. Do I think that there is a good, like, little mini model? Do I think that, you know, big language models have, like, somehow kicked out the difference between, like, subject and object? No. No, I don't think so, really. Not really. But this is for me and my help. Explicit pronoun to be and noun. Yeah. Okay, I'm happy with that. Yeah. I don't think that is bullying. An example of an expletive pronoun, an expletive plus a pronoun. No, expletive pronouns are pronouns that are such as there, blah blah. Yeah. But thank you. Y'all suggestions and discussion is really helpful and helping me to sort of make this a more clear and robust task. And it's also going to make it easier to generate examples. Marco says, one question, what do you think about language models for dialogue applications? I mean, I would say a lot of dialogue applications can have language models in them. That's not a problem. I am, you know, my personal opinion is that you should not be generating language that you show to human beings that they have to read with their eyes without a lot more checks and balances than, you know, neural language model generation gives you. So do they have a potential place? Yes. Would I, you know, replace my task oriented dialogue system with perhaps some sort of large neural language model thing that's open domain? No, I would not. But there are parts of a lot of dialogue systems, particularly if you have any sort of voice in your dialogue system. Almost all ASR systems use some sort of language modeling. Yeah. What is the task? Yeah, so the task is that we're coming up with a task to trick language models, basically. So here, one thing that language models can fall into is if there is repetition, they'll just pick up on the repetition and keep repeating stuff. So Mark says, nice answer. Thank you. I get asked that and variations of that a lot. For, I don't know, maybe obvious reasons. So what we're trying to do is trick our language model by adding a bunch of repetitions of irrelevant information. So make sure that these are all parallel. The bucket is full, the cup is empty, the cup is empty, the bucket is blank. It should pick up on that we're looking for the bucket is full and not start talking about the cup again, or not pick up on empty as a quality that it should have because empty has been repeated a lot. So it should generate one word that is the completion to the part of the sequence that showed up earlier, and there have been more repetitions of other distracting sequences. And this is something that I think any human could do with minimal supervision, with minimal instruction, honestly. You could probably just look at this and be like, oh, I see the pattern. It's pretty straightforward. Yeah. Bug finding. Yeah. And this is part of this Big Bench project. Let's scroll up to the top. So probably after the stream, I'll tidy this up and put it in a JSON file and make a README and make a pull request. And this is, a bunch of NLP people are coming up with tasks that they think language models might not do very well on, to help, build a collaborative benchmark for these types of models. And to be clear, this is a task that I don't think language models are not designed to do. It's a little unfair to ask them to do this, but also people are applying language models in a lot of ways that they were not designed to be deployed in. So, new stream time? Yeah, I'm trying it out. And this is just like my own personal stream on my own time. But yeah, I think 4:30 on Tuesdays is a pretty good time for me. And yeah, I don't know. I'm having a hard time keeping up with all the stuff that I want to do outside of work. So if I do it on stream and I tell everybody I'm going to do it, I have to do it. There you go. So we were also doing examples where there's just repetition to make sure that the system can just pick up on the repetition. Although I guess my question there is, that should not be... It would not be surprising for the system to just pick up on the repetition, because we know that this is something these systems do. So given that... I think I actually don't want to include these. I think I want to, yeah. What I'm gonna do is, cool. So you, did I already get one? I don't think so. Okay, so you're gonna come down here. And then you're gonna come in here. Whoop. All right, and then we're gonna flip these two so that they are like so. There are two, and then this should finish stars. Fabulous. Okay. So these two are just sort of intermingled with each other. Ooh, lava lamp is a good suggestion. So something, how tricky do you want to be? For example, the woman is cold, the cold is bad, the cold is bad, the cold is bad, the woman is, yeah. Yeah, I like that. I think that would be a good type of example to include as well. Because again, this is sort of similar to, there was a task, 2016, 2017? No, more recently than that. Surely, the build it, break it task, where some people built systems and some people tried to break the systems, and this is sort of like the break it part of that particular task. 1 space, 2 spaces, 2 spaces. The woman is bold if you ask a human. Yeah. I'm probably not going to use that exact example, but that is a good point. Where is my Swadesh list? Yeah, lava lamp is classic children's prank. You ask somebody to repeat silk a bunch, and then you ask them what cows drink, and they're like, milk, but cows drink water. So there's a whole literature on what's called priming. So that would be an example of phonemic priming. So you are more likely to say words that are like words that you have just heard. There's also semantic priming, so you're likely to say words that have closer meanings to the words you've just heard. And there's also like a whole battery of psychological tests for various stuff, where you have somebody like list as many things as they can, and generally what people will do is they'll like spend so long on a certain semantic class of things, and then they'll switch, and by looking at sort of like how long people tend to stay on a specific class before they move on, that can give you information about sort of, stuff. I don't know what the tests are for, I just know they exist. Yeah. I would not expect a language model to have phonetic priming. So I think with that example, you would be more likely to get not silk out from a language model than you would from a human. Yeah, some other examples. That would actually be a pretty good task. That sort of like you expect people to be uh the types of things you would expect a human to say as opposed to um a system. I actually don't know what would happen in that example, although I imagine both of those particular examples have been written about in the training data for these models, because if it's on the internet, it's probably in there, is sort of where we're at right now with language models. All right, so okay, fabulous. Let's do one more. So there's an example where something can be both the subject and the object. I was looking for my Swadesh list. Let me pull it back up. Got some. I'm looking for like the adjectives in here. Yeah. Let's see. It's old. And then the expectation out is to be old. All right. Lava Lamp says, put examples like that in anyway to catch people using Python to do natural language processing. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of human labor that goes into natural language processing, even if you are automating steps. Boost a booster, host a server. What do you put in toast? Nothing. Oh, I don't know where you're from, Marco, but stuffed toast is definitely a thing in the US. There's a place kind of near me. I don't even know if they still exist. Have not been eating at restaurants. That does like a French toast that's stuffed with bananas. Like a big piece of brioche toast, and they cut it in half and they put bananas in there. It's really good if you like bananas and French toast. How many do we have? 22, 38, that's what, 47? We have 7 examples. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We got 9. Let's go for an even dozen, and then I'm going to do the formatting and see if I can submit it. I know it's not that many examples, but also I think it's a pretty straightforward task to see if you are doing or not. So I don't think you need that much, because the way we've formulated it, it's pretty simple. Again, pretty simple for humans. If an LB bot is trying to ignore repetition, maybe put in a case where you check them, where you check for the repeated term. Yeah, I had some and I got rid of them. So these two originally, that just like looking for the repetition. But I think that's okay. Because I'm just seeing if the repetition can confuse them, and if it can't, then that's good, because this is just going to be a part of a suite of tests, so it'll be you know, looking at it. Robbie says, good morning from India. Ah, good morning. It's like it's really early there, right? Let's see, so if I think we're about 12 hours, so it would be like 5:30. That's really early. Hope you're doing well. Egg in the nest. Yeah, that would introduce prepositional phrases, which I haven't been doing so far. Also, this is open source, so if y'all have ideas for tasks, you can definitely submit them. It is until June 1st, I believe, that you can submit. So let's do, we needed 2 more, right? Let's pull up my example. Let's see. The rope is heavy. The tree. Did we already use trees as an example? I'm pretty sure we did. The animal is fighting. That doesn't fit our pattern. Ooh, how about this? There is an animal. So we're alternating our two syntactic patterns we're using. There is an animal. There is an animal. The rope is, and then we should do heavy. And I think we had one more to make it an even 12. Oh wow, hello near this made a generator. The X is Y. It's 6 a.m. Oh, that's right, because there's an extra half hour. Some of the examples. The cold is to suck. Yes. So this is the example we come up with. Cool. All right, the heavy is stone. Yeah, we can use the stone as heavy. Let's do that. Oh, we just use heavy, huh? How about the stone is round, the child is... There is a child. Another example of that. There is a child. The stone is round. Ooh, the stone is round. There is a, and then it should be child. Fabulous. Okay, so that's an even dozen. Yeah, and I think I'm good with this so far. Actually, is Bucket on the spot at list? I don't think Bucket is. I think I need another example besides Bucket. Let's see. UCKT sure isn't, and Cup? Cup also isn't. All right. So I think we need to do the top one, and Flower I'm pretty sure is. Yeah. All right, so we need some things that can have the qualities of being full and empty. How about the forest? What is the forest full of? I don't know. That's for early man to have nightmares about. And then horn. You can carry things in horn. There we go. All right. So I'm pretty happy with these. I think we have a pretty good narrow domain definition of the domain for the task. I think, yeah, I think I'm about ready to turn it into gooder looking JSON and do it. I scrolled up. Hello near this says, just added all the words into arrays. The arrays can be saved as JSON as needed. The ton is sharp as knife. Yeah. Marco Dev says, the rope is heavy. There's an animal. There's an animal. There's an animal. Is there a rope? Yeah, that is a good, that would be a good task as well, but I think it would be a slightly different task than this. I think that would actually be a good example for the sort of how many giraffes task. But also the random chance, like assuming that models know to answer yes or no, big assumption. if you had like a crowd worker who was doing this, they could just sit there typing I know for each of those, and you'd get about 50% accuracy. So I don't know that there is, I don't know that's a great, that formulation would necessarily be good for this particular type of task, because the floor is pretty low. The floor is pretty high, so you don't have as much sort of like room to make errors to really pick apart the differences between models. Yeah. And I guess that's really why you have an ensemble task, right? Or not an ensemble task, but like a benchmark that has a lot of pieces in it, so you can see how well it does on various types of pieces. Marcus says splitting the attention. Yeah. So it could be, again, this is like, if this is something that is interesting to you, you know, it's, you got until next Tuesday to sit down and actually do it. And I'll make my pull request later, and I probably won't post about it when I make the pull request on Twitter, but I guess if you follow me on GitHub, you might see that I do it. So I think I'm going to call it here, because it's been about an hour and my voice is letting me know that I've said a lot of things. But yeah, if you have any interest in this sort of task or doing this sort of work, yeah, feel free. If your thing gets accepted, you're an author on the paper, so that's kind of cool. If you're looking to do more research or be involved in more research, that's a good example. And yeah, so thanks for joining. I will be back tomorrow morning as part of my work, so that's going to be office hours. We're going to talk with Lawrence, who is fantastic. I'm so excited to get to like hang out with him for an hour with y'all. And yeah, I'll probably be back to do just like a personal stream on whatever it is I'm thinking about, whatever it is I'm doing outside of work. Probably 4:30 on Tuesdays, at least for the next little bit. We'll see how it goes. All right. Thanks so much. Lovely to talk to y'all. Thank you for the help and the typo spotting. And I will see you later.